Well, not a ton to report up here other than the fact that you now can see the changes a little bit more from up here on some of this. Still got work to do on the ledge, of course, here. But as you can see, we're looking at the year-over-year comparison. You can see how much different it all looks. Sometimes when you get the change in that elevation, you really can see how the property has changed. I mean, if you go and look at all those buildings that were there and the noise, but just thought I'd give this extra footage here just to show how it's changed. So, okay. Okay, so this is the 2 years after exactly the first time I came up here to look at the property. That I'd come around and take a look at everything and the changes that were made. I mean, right away you can see that you can see into there, which you couldn't see before. All of that's all been cleared out. And you see the deer running around in the background. They're actually, if you can see them, they're running back there. You couldn't even see into this lagoon when I was here the first time. The wiring has since gotten a little messed up because we had a guy come out here the very first couple weeks we came to the house in May. In June was he pulled up that post, so it grabbed the wiring and all that. But the best part about this is actually the lagoon, and you needed to have it aired out per se. Okay, and that means that when we had all this massive brush here, you couldn't air it out. So that's an upside to be certain. And you know, it just frankly looks like the rest of the sitting water that exists on the property for the most part. Obviously I haven't done anything to this area yet. It's part of a global plan to create a road through here to this through this side, which requires a retaining wall to be built and dig it down a little bit further. I've tried several times to run stuff through here as far as like the machine, you know, the tractor and stuff like that. You can actually see a bit of a path, but it's just too much. It's got to be, the tractor doesn't like it through here because it gets to that part and the elevation changes. So with that, oh, there's a whole pallet there. Didn't even know that was there. So obviously need to pick that up. So I have done quite a bit of work back here though, and I think you can see that difference in the year over year. There's all kinds of fun stuff buried in this little mounds. I was certain of it, and now I can see it. It's been revealed since the snow and all that melt off, but it looks like we've got another dump here. So there's metal on top of metal coming out of this thing. So anytime we see a situation where the grade has been unnaturally disturbed, it has literally been a dump site. So that'll be a couple-day project there. All this mud and all this stuff here is designed to be backfilled for when we pull around the trailer over here to the left. So there was a huge stump right here, right in this location, and that's been since excavated. This side of the hill, it's all dirt here. This was one of the dump sites, so it had quite a bit of stuff in there. You can still see a lot of snow on the back of the shop, but more to go here. Come up the hill and see what we got here. That's commentary. The ground was completely covered in snow just here 2 days ago, and 3 days ago, I guess now. So it was a bit different to look at. But you can start to see the green coming through on what we call the lawn. Come up here, through here. So, one thing about living up here, the weather does change frequently. You know, a lot of wind and cold and the sun and all the clouds and all that other stuff. But if you recall, in the prior video 2 years ago, this was all swamped here. It was just complete swamp. So I couldn't even walk here. That's where I met with the realtor that day, connected with him the first time. So came around, walked around this way, and one other call out, we had all these trees, and frankly those trees all skirted up just a bit further and a bit tighter, so that we wouldn't have you know, it makes it look cleaner and tighter. So previous owner had a couple stumps out there that we had removed as well. So come around this way here, make our way down the front. I went in the house at this point in the video, so obviously I'll trim that out and what have you. So came out and walked across here. Saw the hawthorn had a bunch of her bird houses and things in it. Come out this way and walk over this hill. So there was as I come around the corner here, kind of a dog run, if you recall, right here. Went up, you had the fencing all along around the top here through these trees. My mom's done a great job of cleaning up all this stuff and getting all the ground revealed. There was a tree trunk in here, since it's been removed. So continue to have some work to do in here as well. But for the most part, it has made an incredible journey change. So as we come through here, you know, the one sad notable is there's no house here. This is the house site for my parents' home, and right now we got 1 on the ground stake, 2 on the ground stake, and a couple that are surviving over there. So that's where the house is going. As we come over to this area, the farthest progress we've had on the house, other than county permitting and the actual design of the home, and it's actually built sitting over at Stratford right now, is there was the runs for the septic tank put in, and so that has been completed. The tank hasn't been in, but been completed. If you recall, this was the location of the dry well. Didn't know what it was 2 years ago. There's been a tremendous amount of work here. So we dumped a bunch of cement. There was a big hole, so we dumped a lot of cement into it that we found on the property. But now we're about 2.5, 3 feet above that cement line. all in here. And we use it as a fire pit currently, as we're going through and trimming trees and stuff like that. We do a lot of our burning right there. That won't last. That's going to go away and be moved to the other side. I'll bring that up a little bit later on. But because that was a dry well, I always kind of figured there was water on the ground that obviously somebody had already dealt with. So what I did was I ran a drain down to this point so that, you know, it'll drain out from the dry well, hopefully, if we got any water that rises too far up to the table. So water comes out there. As we come over here, you'll see that you can actually see the apple trees, the cherry trees now. We've trimmed all that stuff down. It looks night and day different. Today we actually put in some fertilizer sticks so that we can hopefully get more of a bounty this year. And we'll see what happens there. Done some grading here, removed all the flower beds that were here made out of cement and rebar. They were a hell of a gig, and in fact that's what we put inside the dry well there a minute ago as we walked through there. So quite a bit of stuff to do. This is the site of the cistern. 2 cisterns, 3,000 gallons a piece will go here. We'll do a lot of filming of that whole event to make sure that we get everything captured and all that. I was surprised to learn at the time that this was the well, given that this, as I called, the cement bunker at that time. And, you know, it's going to turn out to be a very good thing to have this, because we will be able to put in the water station and all that. As we walk down this way, remember the video here before, there was a couple small trees and a swing set, but a lot you could not see really past those trees. It was even though it was this time of the year, there's no real leaves, you couldn't see through it because it was all the brush was all dead, sitting there ready to go. This was the location of what we affectionately called the wasp house. Gave names to everything on the property, because this was loaded with wasps, thousands and thousands of the sons of bitches. And when you really get down to it, you know, as we walk around here, this was one of the problems on the property we didn't know about was the amount of wasps that were here were phenomenal, and a lot of it has to do with the structures that we tore down. There's just too many places to make homes. So you'll see here that there's been a lot of work done down at the creek. You know, it was all completed last year it's called a phase 1 mentality, knowing that we would have to revisit it because there's obviously some breaches over here that need to be worked with and brought up the snuff so there's no more breach and the water clearly exits the area, which was the goal. If you recall, there was quite a bit of you know, different foliage and trees and different things of that nature that all surrounded this driveway, and gone through greater length to tear down all that, to remove all that stuff so that I could you know, eventually one day get to a point where there is grass and trees that were planted by design and what have you. So that's why you see a lot of mud. This has all been disturbed to ground. Being a weekend warrior, only up here every 4 to 6 weeks, that it just, you know, obviously needed a lot of other processes to come in place. And oddly, one of them was that cistern, because obviously I'm not going to put grass in without water. So a lot of growth still to be done here, but at the 2-year mark, making my way around what used to be affectionately called by us as the candle house. And the reason for that was inside the little shed that was here, it was loaded with, I guess I would call it, expired candles. And those expired candles, we ended up throwing it all away, busted up the shed, and took it down to the dump, which we have come to learn is very, very convenient. We did not know that when the house was purchased. So then this is the old house that was here. History has been taught to us a little bit by some of the folks that used to live on the property, that this was the original home. Call it a cabin, call it what you will, but this is where people would stay for some period of time, and all the family would stay inside of it. It's obviously not here in this video, but once we get to side by side, it'll wake you up to that reality. But if you look at it right now, obviously it's been hazed, all that cleaned up. This is a gap fill because the video isn't lined up. This is a gap fill because the video isn't lined up. This is a gap fill because the video isn't lined up. Electrical cable sticking out of the ground. I think I commented it several times that we'll have to find the other end of that equation. Stumps that have been removed, trees and the like. One of the trees that we kept was this guy here, and it'll be interesting to see how that looks side by side when we get to that point. So then I made my way down here as we walk across the field, and over this side here. And then I think somewhere around in here I make the comment that, what is that, a grave site over there in the distance, and have come to learn that we are in North Idaho. That's actually where they set up the targets to practice shooting. So all that interesting but true. This little yellow stake here represents an electrical line that ran endlessly out into the field. It's not live, so I'm told. Somebody else will be ripping the thing out of the ground before I do, or at least out of the box, so that I can make sure that I'm ripping it out of the ground without it connected. It's not worth the 13,000 volts. So over here, and at that time we had still a significant amount of snow. You can see just some remnants on the north side of the trees and the north side of the road, or should I say the south side of the road, by the north bank. And you can see that there's a lot of stuff that we have done. And one of the things that we have done is start to build on this yellow building, yellow shop, yellow house, many names. But ultimately what happened there was that place was someone in disrepair. The roof we have replaced because the panels were literally flying off and potentially into the road. What you see over there with the plywood cover is we've already framed out the door. It was going to go in today, but with the amount of snow and melt off and all that, we delayed the call and made them reconvene probably in a month. So that hillside again with mud, that actually represents again some cleaning up and carving down and removing. There was an entire wood fence collapsed all the way around here, and I guess when they built the road circa 2002, they pushed all the debris up into the side of the hill, and of course I came across it along with a lot of debris to the right of that rock pile there, and cleaned all that out of that ground. So that's why I know that in the back there is a dump that's been revealed, because that has been the experience. Anytime you see something unnatural, it's been a dump site. Something, of course, when you're walking around some 2 years ago that you did not know. So making my way back up the hill just to kind of copy the last video. You know, just as a quick commentary aside, we have spent a tremendous amount of time, money, and labor to get it to what you see today. Trimming up trees, cleaning up things that, frankly, if you just saw this video, you'd have no idea was in a different place at any one time. I often say to friends, you know, there is kind of like if you came up here for the first time, you'd go, the hell are you talking about? I haven't done shit. And then there's the locals who have stopped more than a dozen times to compliment our efforts, which feels good. So the fact of the matter is, a lot has been done. Call it maybe the first or second inning of the 9-inning game, but ultimately making a lot of progress. Obviously, I haven't lost any more weight because I'm still gasping for air coming up this hill like the last video. Anyway, so as we come around here, you'll see generically just a cleaner area. Obviously, our previous owners had all different kinds of toy boxes and campers and left a lot of their stuff outside. Obviously, that's all been removed. Telephone poles, 2 of them have been removed off the site. One was right here, coming up, parallel to the end of those trees. And then there was also the gate that kind of sat there randomly when you looked at it, but it wasn't random. That's where the gate was for the animals. Come to learn that there was some head of cattle that used to live here. So coming across, my mom spent a lot of time in here cleaning up these trees, basing them up. Got some chainsaw work in there that I've done, but originally, if you recall, this place was pretty nasty in here. We've since cleaned all that up, you know, and have had the opportunity to take all the metal you can possibly imagine out of the ground. We actually joke here that if you haven't found metal today, you haven't started your day. That's becoming less and less as you get more and more of it covered, but ultimately, there's still a shit ton of metal that we're going to come across. And in fact, today we found some more buried in the ground, just randomly. As you can see in the space, this was where the implements were, some other canoes and different things like that. This area right here was all berry bushes, but we've since hazed that down. That is actually the top of a dry well that was over where we were at the beginning of the video, and we had it pulled off the top so that we can work that space. So as you come into here, that's all that's left of all the stuff that was around here. Actually, most of that is wood that we have since cut away. When you get up to here, I think it's the point where I took the picture of the turkeys first time. I want to say we had maybe a half dozen at that time. Today we are the prideful owners of 19 turkeys. That's what you get when you feed them. They kind of multiply. So, but they contribute greatly to the property. You'd be amazed at how much they eat the bugs on the property. So you got to clean up some shit and feed them, but you don't have to feed them, but they're here, so we give them corn and stuff. If you recall, this was all filled with his stuff, all the stuff on the outside. We don't like to live that way. The only thing on the outside is the trailer. So the tractor lives inside the house, inside the shop, and that's what we do with that. Okay, so the only other part of the video that I gotta map back to is the part. By the way, these are some of the poles that we just found throughout the property. Didn't get rid of them. Number one, they're heavy as hell. Number two, there might be a place somewhere along the way that we will end up re-emerging with some of those poles. So what else is there to say about this? Okay, well, I think that's this. The only other piece I was going to do was from the balcony, and I'll catch that later today when I take off my shoes and stuff and go back upstairs. But today is oddly, I want to say overall, a little bit colder than it was that time I came up here. But the sun's out, and it's a beautiful day overall. Yeah. What other bonus footage can I speak to? You know, ultimately around the back here, there's two basic planters here by the air conditioner in the video here, and they were kind of a mess, so we cleared them out, put some plastic down, put some man-made bark. I guess it's all man-made when you turn it into bark, but we put it down from actually taking the tractor and a mulcher and making our own, which was an experience. We'll leave it there. Frankly, it's because I was doing it with the wrong stuff. In other words, the wrong bushes. What else? You can just see these trees. We just went through a night of 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, so it was quite an aggressive night. Although they just had about 6 weeks ago a ton more wind. Now I guess it was about almost like 2 to 3 months now. Ton more wind came through, about 70 mile an hour winds peaked down. Okay, so a lot of trimming up the bushes, again laying down a black tarp, covering it up with bark. We've come to learn that black is not working here, and there's a simple thing called pine needles. So we removed a lot of the garbage up against the wall and that kind of stuff. So trimmed back the bushes and kept that all looking right. Okay, well, that's the end of that video, and then we'll catch up with that other piece from the balcony.